This is
Okay,
basically
I have to get out of my, I'm not used, I am nervous because
You
I'm
are?
I'm not used to being like on this
a
side.
format. What does nobody's ever sat on that side before?
I know. I'm
It's
first.
the format is basically 20 minutes of your growing up and 20 minutes of what you're doing and 20 minutes of the future, and those are not hard numbers. But I think the last one we went an hour and a half.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So some of them go longer depending on you. But you were born and raised in Lansing, right?
I was. I'm the only one in my family born and raised in Lansing. Everyone else is from Detroit.
Oh, really? Sydney Whitfield and Flowers.
Flowers.
I gotta add the flowers on, but
The flowers are nice.
you kind of had a I mean, I remember you from high school, and you always had a presence. And I feel like you were one of the people that sat in the front of the room and got good grades and relatively quiet. But
Was I quiet? Oh, wow.
I don't.
Everybody said I talked a lot.
Did you?
Yeah.
But probably just answering questions. But you were born you lived on the west side?
No, I was actually born, I guess that's the south side, Holmes and Jolly,
Yeah.
that area. Believe it or not, I was born on a street called Karen Street.
Okay.
And my middle name is Karen.
Oh, that's perfect.
And so I was like, did you just look out the window and say, she's like, no, Sydney Karen Whitfield.
Yeah.
It was rhythmic.
Yeah.
But, I will say I'm the first year of Gen X.
Which
and
means
so
what?
1965.
Isn't that boomer? Isn't that a boomer?
I thought most of my life I was a boomer. I'm not a boomer.
Oh, really?
I'm an Xer. In fact,
okay.
I'm going to write a book called,
Well, we're the same age.
I know, Revenge of, what do I call it? Gen X Strikes Back.
Oh, there you go.
Something like that. But no, because we're kind of the forgotten, because we're in between the boomers and, wait, who's after us? The millennials?
Must be.
I think so.
know.
Anyway. But no, so my mother named me Sydney in 1965 when Sydney was not a girl's name.
Sydney Portier.
Exactly. So I used to go to things and they'd look at me and say, "You're Sydney? I thought you were a boy." I was like, "I don't think so. I'm a girl." So at first I had all these girls named after me and I hated it because I was like, no, I want to be the only girl Sydney. And eventually when the internet came out, I used to Google my name all the time.
Oh,
like
really?
my spelling, because she spells it Sydni.
Mm-hmm.
And, I come
No
from...
EY, no SI. Just,
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty unusual too. My grandmother would not call me by my first name until I was like 5, because she's like, if girls were supposed to have boys' names, God would have given them boys' names.
Old school.
So she called me Karen.
Oh.
And so...
Which was a common girl's name.
Right.
It didn't have the meaning that it does today.
Exactly. And you really didn't see a lot of black Karens.
No, that's true.
And so I always thought, well, I hated my middle name. So yeah, when I got married, I changed my middle name to Whitfield.
And you have siblings.
I have one brother who is older.
Okay.
Everybody thinks he's younger than me. And actually yesterday I just went to an exhibit at LCC for him, the Change Makers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he's an artist.
I'm affiliated with that.
I saw your picture just kind of like all over the place.
I did.
Yeah.
I was on the board, and supposedly it was my idea, but
I think you were the one that actually told me about it. Because
Yeah.
because he didn't tell me anything about it.
you didn't.
No. And then I saw it and I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, this is, let me
Isn't
say,
that nice?
it's pretty impressive.
Isn't it nice?
Yeah, you did a good job. Whoever designed it, it was designed
Yeah,
really
they
well.
did. I didn't have any. I was on the board, and trustees often come up with stupid ideas, and this was just one of my ideas, and it was.
I think it's a great idea. And I, standing there and then, having his like history pop up and
Mhm.
and thinking, wow, and then looking at him. So it's me and my niece, his daughter, who's also an artist and a kind of a crazy smart girl. Anyway, it was kind of cool sitting there looking at my brother's stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, so I had, this much involvement. I sort of threw it out there, and then, it's hard. Hard to vote against something like the idea of it, right? So
Right.
everybody said, yeah, that's a great idea. But the administrators, the people at LCC, when you actually go, and I'm not taking credit for what it turned out to be, it's impressive.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, they did a really good job. So the people, whoever was involved, including the president, deserves a lot of credit. And we ended up spending more money than I think we anticipated, but it was well worth it. I mean, and that space needed to be redone, and I'm proud of the way they handled it. They executed it amazing.
Yeah. I'll show you some pictures because my niece took some pictures in there of like, I didn't know she was taking pictures, and you can really see like the design from the ceiling. It's very,
right.
I never thought I was artistic because, like you said, I was involved a lot in school. I was on the junior board of education with.
Weren't you honor roll and all that stuff? Honor society or whatever?
I kind of graduated salutatorian.
Oh, what's that mean? Number one?
I got 1B in high school.
Oh,
but my father said, I will buy you a car if you graduate with straight A's, a 4-point. I was like, cool. And then I got one. So I graduated with literally a 3.99999999.
Tell me, what did your parents do?
Well, they both from Detroit. They met at Wayne State. Father's a Kappa, mother's a AKA Ski-Week. And they both worked like in the public health. My father in administration, my mom was a nurse. And then my father kind of branched off and started working for the state in administration. And my mother took a turn and went into occupational therapy.
Oh, really?
And so eventually my father, worked downtown, and then they started the Michigan Lottery, which was the first lottery in the country. And so my father was the treasurer.
Oh, really?
Which, I don't remember what year it was, but for a black man to be the treasurer of the first lottery was kind of a big deal. And then they started
in the Blanchard era, you think, or Milliken Blanchard, I bet.
I don't, something like that, because they ended up having a weekly show.
Yes.
And so my father sat on the stage, and at the end they had a shot of him, writing the check.
That must have been a big moment.
Yeah, it was kind of cool, but he got to his head a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit. But my mom went on to be an occupational therapist in the Lansing school system. So we just passed it yesterday, Walnut Elementary School. I don't think it is that anymore. But anyway, so my mom went and she became a pretty big OT in the state of Michigan. Again, a black woman in the 70s, 80s. And so she eventually left the school system, got her master's degree, and then got a grant and started a organization called Projects with Industry. And so she would take like severely disabled people and find jobs for them.
Wow, that's tough.
And so one of her kids, Allison, had very little range of motion, just like her fingers. And my mom designed a whole computer, and she worked for a company and did their inventory for years.
Really?
And so she was able to type on her fingers the inventory, and then when her hands got tired, my mother had designed this thing that she could speak into it.
Speak to text.
And again, people need to remember this is before the internet, all of that stuff. So, so my mom really helped a lot of, there are a lot of people that I still run into that, my brother and I were talking about this yesterday. There's someone that's a friend of ours, and every time she sees us, she's like hugging on us, and she's like, every time she sees me on Facebook, she sends me a message. And, I didn't really realize why my mother was so, important or special to so many people. And then I remembered when I was 4, for some reason I didn't have childcare. So I went to school with her every single day.
Really?
And so for me, seeing kids without arms or legs was just kind of natural. When it was snack time, I knew to run to the cookies, because there was this kid, didn't have any arms, but if he got to the cookies, he could pick all the cookies up with his feet, and he would take all the cookies. But anyway, that's the environment I grew up in, and so there's so many people that are now adults that credit my mother for, she taught them how to brush their teeth and button their shirt, wash their hair, just do things that we take for granted. And they said I wouldn't be able to do anything or have gone to college or,
That's a great legacy, isn't it?
And so there was one kid, I forgot his name, but she actually ended up teaching him how to drive a car with no arms.
Wow.
And they equipped this car, and he drove. He worked for the state senate, I think. I mean, he got pretty high up, and then he tragically got into a car crash, but he wasn't driving.
Oh.
But when my mom retired, it's like, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Mr. Holland's Opus.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies.
Right.
And it's like, you
Richard
don't.
Dreyfuss.
Yeah. No one knows who they're affecting just by being them. And so the people that came from like all over the state, people came from out of state for her retirement. And I said to her, I said, "You're Mr. Holland." And she's just, she was overwhelmed. I don't know if you know
she's still alive.
Oh my God, yes.
I haven't. I don't know if I've ever met her, but I see her through your social media.
Yeah.
So
I try to give her flowers because she is such a dynamic. I'm not going to get emotional, but she's such a dynamic woman. Like, I just left the house and one of my girlfriends had called, and I was like, I got to get dressed. Here, talk to Mama. And she went in the other room, and she's like, she was just in Maryland, and my friend got remarried after her husband passed, who was like my big brother. And my mom came to Maryland and came to the wedding. And so my mom is like the mother of like all my friends. When she comes to Maryland, literally my house has is your mom home? Is your mom home? Is Ruby home? And she's just got one of those like spirits that she's very calming. She gives good advice. And
your mom's name is Ruby?
Ruby Frazier.
Okay, and your dad's name?
Alvin Whitfield.
Okay.
But yeah, so, I didn't finish my dad's story, which I will, but my mom is, if you see, people say if you see me, or if you see her, you see me. If you see me, you see her.
Right.
But I always say she's like 10 times higher than me.
So your brother is an accomplished artist.
Yes.
And you went into, what would you say, television or broadcasting?
Media. Yeah, media. Yeah, so Brian, just one story about Brian. When he was in school, they thought he was autistic because he didn't talk in school. And my mother was like, "What are you talking about?" And he comes home and he's talking up a storm. But he just would draw. And they said, he wouldn't talk, but he would draw. And then my mother noticed when he was sitting there, I think he was like 1 year old, he wouldn't just eat his bread. He would chew it and then make it into animals. And so he'd have all these little animals out of the bread that he had chewed. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's pretty amazing.
Where do you think that comes from, given your parents, were more in public service and health?
Right. And actually, my father eventually did go to the Department of Corrections. Okay. And he was deputy director of corrections for 20 years, wow. Something like that. And my stepmother was also deputy director. And so out of the 3 top people in corrections in Michigan, I was related to 2 of them. And the other one was like Mr. Bob was my uncle. Right. It was pretty cool. But anyway, I think everything comes from my grandfather. My grandfather, raised his family in Nashville, Tennessee during segregation. My mom drank from a black-only fountain. And, it was rough. But one day my grandmother went to a store and the woman said, "If you touch that dress, you have to buy it." My grandmother goes home crying, and my grandfather said, "That's it. We're moving up north." And so they were part of that great migration up north. Mm-hmm. Moved in with cousins, and he eventually owned 3 barbershops and a beauty shop in Detroit.
Wow.
But the story about my grandfather, when I graduated from Michigan, the University of Michigan, he went to buy my first car, and he couldn't. They said, he doesn't have any credit. I was like, "What do you mean? He's got like 4 businesses." He had no credit cards, no credit. And so I was like, "Well, Granddaddy, how do you do business and order supplies?"
Gosh.
And, his name was E.C. Frazier. And because he was a man of his word, and people knew him. And E.C. Frazier, his name is Early Charlie because he was born early in the morning. It's one of those Southern things. Right. But he just really, had a basic education, but the kids that he brought, he had 3 children, has 3 children. My mother and then my two uncles. My mom's OT. Another uncle was a kidney doctor specialist, and then my other uncle Don was a NASA scientist.
Wow.
And so you think about this man that, was living in basements while my mom and her brothers were and grandma were down south, just trying to get enough money to be able to move them up. And he's produced like these dynamic kids. And so I think I knew I wanted to be like in the media. My grandfather really was the one that encouraged me. I was at University of Michigan, didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. And my boyfriend at the time said, my friend's doing this TV thing as his grad degree. Why don't you go see what he's doing? So I went over there and worked with him. And eventually, I think a year later, me and my other friend were producing it because he had graduated.
Oh, wow.
And that video, it ended up being used by the school system in Detroit to like recruit black kids to University of Michigan. And so my grandfather was cutting the hair of the vice president of news of Channel 4. And, it's talking all about his granddaughter and how I'm interested in TV. And so Bob Warfield said, oh, tell her to give me a call. So, of course, I called
Channel 4 Detroit.
WDIV with Mort Krim and Carmen Harland.
Yeah.
So, of course, I call him the next day.
Right.
And by that Friday, I'm at the station, and he's giving me a tour of the station, probably like a 2-hour tour. Sitting in his office, he said, well, the Pope is coming, and we need some help with a documentary. And so I became the head Pope intern. So those are my last 2 credits at Michigan. I was the head Pope intern. And so that summer, I worked on a documentary, and you also kind of work on the news.
Summer of 87?
Summer of 87, yes. Pope John Paul.
I assume you graduated in 4 years at Michigan.
I did.
Yeah, of course you did.
I'm pretty proud of that. Too.
Of course you
I
did.
didn't realize until I got to be a full-grown adult what a great accomplishment that was. But so I worked, pretty hard, and then when the Pope came, it was 24 hours of live coverage. And so, actually, my internship ended in August. And Bob Warfield called me and 2 other interns in his office, and he's like screaming at us. And he's this really like dynamic man, black man. And he says, if I'm going to hire you, I need to know that you're going to do blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, hire me? What is he talking about? So he ends up hiring me and the other 2 interns because our internship ended in August, but the Pope came in October.
Oh.
So he hired us for like 2 months. So I was, again, the head Pope intern. And so, actually, I wasn't an intern. I was a PA, production assistant. And so when the Pope came, from the moment he touched down, I had this whole logging system. And again, we're 24 hours live coverage. And so we, if a producer ran in and said, the Pope just kissed a baby, I was like, tape 23. So it was very, very broadcast news. I mean, seriously, if you ever saw that movie and the girl's like running with the script or the tape and almost falls, that was me.
It was Bill Hurt, right?
Yeah. So, 24 hours, coverage. We do this great job. And then when it's over, you have the champagne toast, and I realize, I've graduated and I have no job.
Yeah, no job.
So I go back to my grandfather's house and couldn't sleep. So I get up and just drive to Lansing to my mom's house at like 1 a.m. So she wakes up in the morning. She's like, oh, you're here? And I was like, yeah. I just realized I don't have a job. Literally at like 10 o'clock, the phone rings. And it's this guy, Fred Ertz. Wow, I just remembered that name. Fred Ertz from the station. And he says, hey, a production assistant job just came open. Do you want it? I was like, what?
With WDIV.
He said, you have to come down and actually interview for it. And so the next morning, I'm sitting there across from Fred Ertz, and he's kind of giggling.
What does that pay? 20 grand?
No, it was less than that.
Less than 20 grand, yeah.
Probably like 10. Because it wasn't full time. I was the 6 a.m. production assistant. And so I would wake up at like 3 o'clock to be at work by 4 o'clock, do the 6 o'clock show. I started training on the noon show. The woman that had been at the 6 o'clock had been at that show for like 4 years. And so now she was doing the noon and the 6. 6 o'clock was a half an hour. The big shows were the 5 o'clock, because that was an hour show. And then the night beat at 11, which was the number one show, like, on the West Coast. Number one night show. So I'd get up in the morning, I'd go to work, do the noon show, get off of work, go to the gym, go get a KFC 2-piece with a biscuit, come home, take a nap, wait for my friends to get off work, go hang out until like 11.
Living in Detroit.
Yeah, living in Detroit with my...
In Detroit, not Royal Oak, not...
Nope, Detroit.
Not Somerset, not Troy.
Livernois and 7 Mile.
Really?
Yeah.
And where, an apartment?
No, I live with my aunt, and then I live with my big sister and her family, because I was also her nanny part-time. Because, I was working at DIV. So, what was I saying? So then they came to me and said, we want you to train on the noon show. This is when, like, 2 months of me being there. And I'm thinking, oh, Natalie must be getting a promotion.
Right.
No, Natalie wasn't getting a promotion. They kind of bumped Natalie. Eventually, they bumped Natalie. I did the noon and the 6. And then the
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
So you're prime time almost, right?
Almost, yeah. And then within 2 months of that, the woman that did the 5 o'clock was leaving for another job. And so instead of Natalie sliding into that, I became the 5 o'clock and the 11 o'clock news beat.
Now you're killing it.
Now I'm kind of like...
Tell me what a production assistant is.
So production assistant, so your newscast involves a script. So every story you see has a script. Mm-hmm. It has some kind of usually a video element or a sound bite, somebody talking. And so on that, that story has a slug. And so in the old days, before there were computers and internet and all of this was automated, literally you would have a huge board, and I would write it would be like page 1, and I had no lines. I would write every, what the slug of the story was, how long it was it a VO or an SOT, sound on tape, which people call it's called a VOSOT. And so every single story had a huge amount of info and all handwritten. And so
when the story ended, they would replace, you would have to put up a the next story, right?
Well, from this board, the writers would write the stories. Those would go into a system that it would print out like 4. This is again before like 4 copies, and those copies had to go to the anchors, had to go to the director, the graphics person, and somebody else. So when you say running, I literally was running to make sure. And then if they changed the script, you had to reprint it. You had to take the scripts that they had, rerun it, make sure they're in order. And the guy who produced the 5 o'clock, or 5 o'clock was really good. And he was a good producer. He ended up going to CBS and producing their morning show for years. But he was tough. And so if news broke 5 minutes before the air, he's like, we're scrapping the whole first block. And I'm like, what the?
What's the first block would be?
From
the first commercial? Or?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the first block. So I'd have to rewrite everything.
Oh, man.
Reprint everything. And so broadcast news, I'm telling you, it's the broadcast is about to cut. Where is Sydney? We need that. And I'm running. So that's kind of what a production assistant does in a newsroom.
Let's back up. So you're born on the south side.
Oh, yeah. Born on the south, on Karen Street.
You and your brother.
Me and my brother, my parents. In a teeny, tiny house.
Go to Pattongill Middle School, right?
I go to Wexford Elementary.
Right.
And then one Sunday after church, my father is driving us around, and we go into this neighborhood with these mansions. And we're like, oh, my God. My brother and I, these houses are huge. And my father says, you see that house right there? How do you like that house? We're like, it's a mansion, Daddy. And he said, that's our new house. And we're like, what you talking about, Daddy? It's not our house. And so we, 1205, I'm not going to say the whole address, but on the west side, we were the first ones to move into the neighborhood.
What do you mean, we?
Our family. Moving on in the house that my mom still lives in, there were no blacks
That's
anywhere.
what, yeah.
And there are no black people anywhere around. So actually, we spent that whole summer fixing the house up. But before that, the woman that owned it, her husband had died. And then she found out that we were black, and she took us to court.
Oh, really?
Because she didn't want us to buy the house, which was illegal. So, of course, we won, and we moved in. And my mother still lives there. And it's this beautiful Victorian house with 6 bedrooms and secret passages and stuff. It was a great,
Really? I can't even imagine that kind of. We didn't have 6 bedrooms, and we had 10 kids on MRD.
But you were on the golf course, so.
No. Well, no, we grew up on the river, but down the street from Teresa Jameson. She lived on the golf course. We lived on the riverside.
So how many bedrooms do you have?
We had, I think, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had 5 bedrooms.
So you always shared a room?
I lived with my brother Jim, slept in the same room as my brother Jim and my brother Jerome until Jim went to college.
Wow.
And then Jerome and I were in the same room until I went to college.
So you were like grown.
I mean, it was just like, well, we didn't even think about it, you know?
That's cool, though.
Then think about it. We had a bunk bed and a single in the same room. And, you think about that room being super big, but it was probably like 10 by 12 or something, you know.
What's funny, because I went back to the house on Karen Street, like with my kids, and they were like, Mama, you grew up in this little? Because it looks like, it almost looks like not a row house, what are those, like a trailer. I mean, it's tiny.
Yeah.
And so I think we knew the people that lived there, so I went in and showed them my room, and they were like, this is like as big as our closet.
Yeah, I went back and looked at that house. It was for sale. Maybe 2018, 2017, the house where we grew up in, and a lot of the stuff was still the same.
Yeah.
What?
But let me just get back to the grandfather story, and we can go back to my childhood. But so, what I learned after I got the job at Channel 4 and worked the night beat and got really close with the team, and actually right after the night beat, in between when the show ends and David Letterman started, there was a 5-minute break. And so whoever was the production assistant got to produce that 5 minutes. So within 6 months of moving there, I was producing for the number 5 market. I was producing a 5-minute segment.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, what would that be? Like a 5-minute segment? That's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I would take the 5 and 6 o'clock show and figure out the best stories. I'd come up with my rundown, and then I would take the script and update it, because usually, something had happened. And then whoever was the anchor for the night show, I would tape them reading each of the stories, and then the editor would put it together. And, Mort Krim, he would tape some stories. He would sit on the set. Yeah, he would sit on the set, and then at the end he's like, and that's the update. So yeah, I got like a credit.
So was that like between 11:30 and 11:35 or something?
Yeah.
There was a 5-minute stagger because Letterman didn't start, or Carson, or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was Letterman. Was it Letterman? Yeah, whatever it was.
Didn't start till 11:35.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but it was like that in all markets. But so when I worked the night beat, what they said is, yeah, when you first came here, we thought you were like one of Bob Warfield's like little young chicks.
Oh, really?
Because he never takes 2 hours and spends 2 hours with anybody. And he took me on like a tour and sat in his office and everything, but it was because I was E.C. Frazier's daughter or granddaughter.
Really?
Yeah, that I got like extra attention. And
you had a presence even in high school. You weren't not like everybody else, is what I would say. You kind of.
I'm special.
I think you were serious.
Really?
You obviously had a high grade point. You didn't, not in the sense that you couldn't laugh or couldn't joke, but you always carried yourself like you were going to move beyond sort of the Sexton kind of crew and do something big.
That's funny because looking like at that time, I never thought that. I just knew I had a high energy level.
Mm-hmm.
And I also just knew I'd be sitting there and hearing things and speaking up, like, it's not like I sit back and don't say anything. That's why when you said I was quiet, I was like, really? Me quiet?
Yeah, no, I guess I don't.
Because I was president of the student council, president of the prom committee, president of the, whatever the black group was, the all hands or hands something, vice president of something.
Active.
On the track team.
That's what I was going to
Junior
ask.
board of education.
Did you play sports? You played
in the band.
Really? What band instrument did you play?
I played the clarinet until somebody stole it. Then I played the alto clarinet, and I was like, I hate this. So then I played the bells, and I said, I'm done with band.
And you ran track?
I did the shot put in the discus.
Oh, and didn't play tennis?
I didn't play tennis until I was in my 40s. But
so you were really involved with high school.
Yeah,
active.
I was active.
And that's maybe why I didn't, because I didn't do any. The only thing I did was play golf. I didn't go to any athletic events.
Did you go to basketball games?
I didn't. I went to maybe one or two, not till my senior year. I did.
I mean, I knew. Obviously, I knew who you were, and I knew you had lots of siblings. Because
right.
Who was in Brian's? He was 81.
My brother Jim.
Okay. Because how many of you? 10?
10. I have 9 siblings. Yeah.
So all my cousins, everybody had Nabood in their class at some point.
For sure. Especially if you went to Sexton.
Right.
Because we all graduated from Sexton.
Right. One thing I think you need to change or add at the change maker, where it has the facts for Magic, which we used to call Irvin Johnson before we knew him before he was Magic. It says, true or false, something about him going to Everett. I think there should be a footnote that says he was supposed to go to Sexton High School. Yeah. And the security, Brian and I were talking about that. Even the security guard said everyone that sees that says that he was supposed to go to Sexton.
Right.
But
he lived right over. He went to Main Street, which I went to in 5th grade. I was bused over to Main Street in 5th grade.
My cousin Jill dated him for a hot second, so I used to watch him play basketball on the back courts over by Main Street before he went to State. And then, do you remember when they won?
Yeah, 8th grade.
Yeah, where were you when they won?
Well, what do you mean?
I remember I was rolling around in the TV room on this white carpet that we had, screaming.
Oh, yeah. So I'm certain I didn't watch the game. But I remember being at Dwight Rich the next week.
The next day. Or whenever they had the parade.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everybody had left.
Well, they said you were supposed to go to the office and get a yellow slip if you wanted to go to the parade.
Yes.
And every single school, high school, elementary school said they had lines going out the door, and so they finally just canceled class.
Yeah, so I don't know what hour I had Mr. Schramm, which was my math class, and somehow I was like, this is stupid, there's nobody here. And so...
Of course, you're the only one sitting there.
Yeah, no, well, there was, and so I went home and got an excused absence, and I came back and I gave it to him. He was so disappointed. I said, are you serious? Like, what? Are you serious about this?
Did you go to the parade?
No, I just went home.
You didn't even go to the parade?
No. I mean, how was I going to go?
Oh, my God. We walked from our house.
That's true. You could walk downtown. No, I was on the other side. I must have walked home and then just hung out at home.
I remember vividly because my brother and I were on the side, and it was just like downtown was packed. We were pretty close to the Capitol. And when the float came by, Magic was on our side, and I remember he, grabbed me and my brother's hands, and
my sister claims that he asked her out. They would have been at the same class at Dwight Rich.
Let's just
and
say.
I remember him coming to our house every maybe once or twice, but I remember him, and I'm pretty good friends with Larry Johnson. I talk to him all the time, but yeah, he had it was a big presence back then, wasn't it?
Brian has wanted to do a mural of him. He entered in some competition because he has a whole mural design and he didn't win. And just yesterday he says, man, I want to do a mural of him so badly. So you need to hook that up. Find a
Okay.
place for him to do it and commission him to do a mural of magic.
That'd be great.
I know a spot in downtown it's this really, actually there are a couple places in Old Town. I was saying to yesterday, I was like, that'd be a good place.
Right.
There's someplace downtown, it's like a long, tall building. I don't know if it's still empty, but I thought a long thing of magic.
That'd be amazing.
Because he has them over at the Under the Bridge project that he did.
Yep.
He has magic in that too.
What drew you to Michigan?
University of?
Yes.
I was smart.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, but you
No,
could have.
do you remember back when we were in school, again, we grew up in Lansing, so I was hanging out at Michigan State parties, like in
Right.
high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Dude, what were you doing? You were just in your house. How did I even know you?
I don't know. We were in the same class, probably.
We were in the same
I
class.
helped the curve at the bottom end.
So Michigan State was known as like the party school.
Right.
And Michigan was known as the, if you're smart school. So at first I didn't want to go to Michigan. I wanted to get out of state. I think I may have applied to like Duke and some other random place.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I got into Michigan and I love my experience there. I think I really grew up.
No real connections though to Michigan. I mean, your parents
not like parents or no, but a lot of really close family friends.
went to Michigan.
Yeah.
I got into Michigan.
And you went to state?
I got into Michigan State, and in fact, I can't remember my counselor, but I filled out the application to Michigan State in pencil, and he was like, you need to actually. I said, I'm sure I'm going to get in. It's like Michigan State at the time was like a safety school.
Oh yeah, it was a safe, yeah.
And I was on the golf team, and I went down and met with the golf coach, Karras. Jim Karras was the golf coach.
Oh yeah, I know that.
And he took me in to see the AD, which was, anyway, I won't remember his name, but a big name guy. And he sat there and he said, "You're an athlete. I'm going to put a red mark on your application, and you're sort of borderline whether you're going to get in." But
so you got in because of golf?
Well, yeah, he said, you got to go take the SAT, and if you get over like 1100, you'll get in. And I said, okay. And I didn't study for the ACT at all, but I actually studied for the SAT and got the score on the SAT that I needed and got accepted, and I didn't go. My dad, I wanted to go because I loved the way Karras treated me, and I loved the athletic director, and I loved the whole idea. Quite frankly, I probably wasn't mature enough and wouldn't have fared very well, but my dad basically said, you're going to Michigan State, and that was it. And
oh, so you really see, as much as you give me stuff, you're really a Michigan.
Not really. I mean, Michigan State was the greatest thing I could ever, know.
Did you ever wish you had left Lansing?
All the time.
Where would you be?
I don't have any idea.
Is it too late?
It feels like it's too late.
It's not too late. I may move to Panama.
The hole keeps getting deeper and deeper.
It's never that deep. Just go. You can everything
but
you do remotely.
I do travel a decent amount, but
I'm going to move to Panama, I think.
All right.
If this election goes the way it may go, I'm out.
Which one?
In November.
Which is the midterm.
The midterms, yeah. You know about the midterms.
Yeah.
Okay, just check.
They're saying it's going to be a blue wave.
I started in news, but I don't,
Right.
and CNN is actually owned by my old company, Warner Brothers and Discovery merged, so Warner Brothers Discovery. I can't watch mainstream media anymore because it's just like they're not even reporting a lot of the stuff that's really happening, and some of the stuff happening, I'm like, okay, if you think about it, when they stormed the Capitol here, that was a prerequisite to January 6th. That was their.
Oh, when they stormed the Capitol in Michigan.
In Michigan, yeah. I remember one of my friends, Harold, called me. He said, somebody's walking down the street with a pitchfork. And, because my mom is pretty close to downtown.
In Michigan.
Yeah. But that was a prerequisite to January 6th. And then California, Minneapolis, Chicago, that's a prerequisite to the elections.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to call the National Guard. He's going to do, I come home and I watch the news here and I'm like, do you all know that this happened? Do you know that this is happening? Do you know that he just did something at the post office? Do you know what's happening at the post office? Right? And people are like, no, I don't. What are you talking about? I'm thinking, oh my God, we're going to hell.
Yeah. But tell me, you were at WDIV. It sounds like they thought really highly of you. How do you get to DC?
So there was a board that had all the openings of post Newsweek stations.
Actual board.
An actual board again.
Yeah, not an online.
Nope.
Not
Nope.
Indeed or Monster
Nope.
or whatever. There's an
Those
actual.
didn't
Where
exist.
was the board at?
On the second floor near the lunchroom.
Oh, so okay.
And again, this is so hard for people to imagine, but there was no internet. There was no cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
We had like the AP and different systems that we would get the news stories on, but
Right. And what year would this have been?
1987, the end of 87.
87.
87, 88.
87. You're just graduating from Michigan, and you're doing the Pope. You're the Pope intern, right?
And then I got the job as the PA, and
Right.
then I'm the PA for the 5 in the night beat for about a
And do you love it?
I do, because
It's not something you had any like lifetime dream to say, I want to be in TV and production. And you could have been in the front of the camera, right? Which is kind of the highlight.
everybody thinks it is, but I always tell people, the people in front of the camera, I'm writing what they're saying.
Right.
They're not, they may change a few words, but behind the camera is where, I've always felt like you have the most influence. And plus, I've always been really good at like organizing and, kind of gathering things and putting things together. So producing is like a perfect thing for me.
You like producing, knowing you have 30 minutes and you have a 3-minute slot or an 8-minute slot, and then fitting everything in, and that challenge.
I don't like news as much as I did, because once I got to Discovery and got long format, I realized I had a longer time to be able to tell the story.
Right.
But
and that was better for you.
it was just felt more. It didn't feel as rushed. It still, it's a hectic life.
Right.
But when you're in news, you start off your day. I went into the office. By then, I had scanned all the newspapers, because I eventually, this is when I got to DC. So when I was in Detroit, I looked at the boards. I saw an opening in the DC office for like a field producer trainee, no salary attached. And so I was like, that sounds like something I want to do. Because I always wanted to work for like Entertainment Tonight and be a field.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, still like one of my dream jobs.
Like a paparazzi?
More of a high level interviewer.
Oh, right.
But so I applied for the job, and then I told Bob Warfield that I applied for the job, and he was like, "Oh, let me call Tina Galland." Tina Galland was the bureau chief in DC that the position reported to, and she ran the DC bureau. So Post Newsweek had 6 TV stations around the country: Detroit, Florida. I don't remember where all the others were. So Tina Galland was the bureau chief, and she was pregnant at the time, so she couldn't come out to interview me, and they really didn't want to spend the money to have me come out there, but someone from Post Newsweek was in town, and so they're like, Jim is going to come and interview you. Like, okay. So this guy, Jim, old guy, looks like my grandfather, white guy, he brings me into Warfield's office, and we talked for like an hour. And again, I'm like, what, 23?
Yeah, 88 you would have been.
And so he's like, asking me questions.
Not even 25, for sure.
Oh, yeah, no, I think it was 23, because I definitely was in D.C. before I was 24. But he's interviewing me, and I'm like, ba-ba-da, la-la-la, da-da-da, what do you want to do, la-la-la. I'm thinking it's like my grandfather. And so fast forward, that evening, we're on the night beat, and, Willie and all the producers are looking at me, and they're like, okay, why were you in there with Jim Schneider? I was like, because I'm looking at a job in D.C. Why? And they're like, you have no idea who Jim Schneider is, do you? Like, no. He's the head of Post Newsweek stations, like the president of all Post Newsweek stations.
Oh, really?
I was like, oh, Okay.
Washington Post?
The joint
Newsweek.
Post Newsweek was a joint venture.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was the president of all 6 stations.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm in there like, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. But got the job. So when I was getting ready to move,
and do you think you're the GM
Bob Warfield?
Bob Warfield? Do you think he had
Heck yes.
And that's generous of him, right? I mean,
well, I mean, I came in as E.C. Frazier's granddaughter, but I proved myself.
Yeah.
So he knew that I was good, and there weren't many people my age, a woman of color, in the positions that I was in. Because like when I was in Detroit, Isaiah Thomas became the substitute sports anchor because he was trying to, figure out what he was going to do post basketball.
So he was doing it.
So he would.
He was still playing.
Yeah, he was playing, but like twice a week, he would come in and do the.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And what I found out later was he and Bob were starting a company together, and they eventually went on to, once he retired, they went on and did that. They may still have a company together. I've run into him twice over the years, and so.
Does he remember who you are?
Yeah. The first time in L.A. he didn't, but then I ran into him at the March on Washington anniversary, and he was like randomly just sitting by the monument, and I was like, "Yo!" I was working for Discovery, so I was up in the VIP area. Yeah. So, but Bob Warfield called Tina Galan before I moved out there because the job you were asking me how much pay. That job was $13,000.
Oh God!
And he said, "I can't send E.C. Frazier's daughter to Washington D.C. at $13,000." So they raised it to $17,000.
Wow.
So I moved to D.C. making $17,000. My father had to subsidize me.
I don't care what anybody says. That wasn't a lot of money then.
No, it wasn't. to like be an adult.
You can talk about inflation and whatever you want. You were still, paying most of it to rent. To live in D.C., you couldn't do anything.
Right. So my mom came with me, and we went to look for an apartment. And I was just like, everything here is so expensive. And then the places we look at that maybe I could afford were like in, cockroach infested places.
Right.
And so she called my father, and she's like, "Okay, we're going to have to subsidize this." So I think my father helped me with my rent. I had a $600 studio apartment in downtown Silver Spring, Blair Plaza. Loved it, in the heart of everything. And I lived there for maybe 2 years. And my father helped me, I think, for the first year. And then I was like, I got this.
Really?
Yeah, that felt pretty good. But
I got to tell you, so we've had, people like Tim Stout and Michael Patrick Shields, who's a radio personality, and Jerry Jones, and almost all to a T took those jobs, regardless of the pay. Yeah. Their first jobs, they were making peanuts, and because for the love of the game or whatever it was. And
I got to DC.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say. I got to DC.
Had you been there before?
I've been there in college for Howard's homecoming.
Okay.
I think 2 times.
Like on a date or something? Like a homecoming?
No. Do you know about like HBCU's homecomings? Like,
I've been to Howard. I haven't been to their homecoming.
They have, homecoming at all the HBCUs is like an event. Like Morehouse, Morehouse and Spelman have theirs together. I'm talking like, are there hundreds of thousands of people? Possibly. I'll show you pictures later.
Square?
In the yard. And the yard.
I
got to teach you this now. It's called the Yard.
Well, most universities have a square or a yard or whatever.
Michigan is the Diag, but no, it's called the Yard. But no, so when I moved there, within 2 weeks, they said, "Okay, we need you to go to the White House." One of our stations in Texas, something was happening, and they said, "We need you to go to the Oval Office, and there's a pool, still camera."
Would have been 87, 88 would have been Reagan, and Bush went in on 89, I think, right?
It was Reagan, yeah.
Okay.
So they said there's a still pool photographer, and you're the pool video. So there's just a still, and so there was
a camera.
There was a cameraman, still camera guy. He had a reporter. I was the quote unquote reporter for us. And they said, just keep saying, Mr. President, Mr. President, and this is
and did they give you a question or did you?
like what do you think about the Mexican something 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 the president da 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 da. So we're walking to the Oval Office, and it was me and Glenn Elvington. I probably shouldn't say this on TV, but so we're walking, and he has the camera down, and he said, "This is technically illegal." But he turned the camera on so you can see me like walking down the hallway to the Oval Office. And I'm like, we go in the Oval Office and you're kind of standing behind these chairs, and Reagan and whoever was with them, president or something, they come out, and I had a red dress on, I'm a black woman, and they had told me that he loves red. Now, I came to work not knowing I was going to White House. I just happened to have red on.
Good looking.
And so I'm like,
beautiful. I mean, Michigan. Right? I mean, smart and articulate, and you carried yourself. You had a presence, right?
But I'm like, Mr. President, Mr. President. And that's when I realized he is old as crap, because he was like standing there like propped up. So I'm thinking, does he? But he kept his eyes on. I was in the corner. It's like, Mr. President. And he's like looking at me, just smiling. And later on, I found out he could see me because I was black and I had red on. But he probably couldn't see a lot of the other people because they were blending in. Never answered my question. But after that, so it was Reagan, both Bushes.
Did you actually get to interview him or ask him questions ever?
That was almost at the end of his presidency.
Yeah,
like literally, I think that was like November, December. So.
Did your did you say, "Wow, this is a job for me"?
Oh, I was totally into it. By then I was like, okay, I'm 17,000, whatever, I'm here. And so then over the years, like if there was a State of the Union,
right.
We originally had our news bureau was on South Capitol, and then we built a studio on North Capitol in this building where everybody is. So I can still, to this day, see live shots, and I'm like, that's my studio. Because I can tell where on the Capitol, and I know what trees are around it. Right. But, so like State of the Union, we get an advance copy of the speech.
Right.
And so once the State of the Union is over, all of the senators and congressmen go to what's called Statuary Hall. And it's literally a circle with TV cameras from all over the world. Mm-hmm. And so you get assigned a spot. And so I had 6 TV stations. So I needed
assigned a spot.
Yeah, like Post Newsweek.
When you say you get assigned a spot, you're talking about all the media get assigned.
Correct.
This is where your little...
Like Post Newsweek, your space is 236.
Yeah.
And so you would let all of your congressmen and senators, their press people know where you're going to be.
Right.
Because as soon as the speech is over, they all descend. And if you're, we had pretty big stations. We had KPRC in Houston and KSAT in San Antonio.
Well, you're Post Newsweek. I mean, that's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Newsweek, maybe not so much anymore, but...
Yeah, for independent bureaus, we had a lot of clout. And you didn't have the CNN. CNN did not exist. Right. There was no 24 hours.
CBS and ABC and NBC
and PBS.
And PBS.
Yeah, cable was here, but it didn't have news.
And tell me the name of the company you're working for. Is it Post Newsweek?
Post Newsweek Networks.
Okay. And it was TV. It's not the Discovery Channel or PBS.
No, this is way before then.
Yeah, okay.
But so what I'd love the most is the president's out there giving the State of the Union, and I'm on the phone with my mom and giving her like a couple of lines before. So I'd say, and I'm so proud of doing blah, blah, blah. And he'd say, and I'm proud of doing, and my parents were like, they love that.
That's great.
So eventually the bureaus started closing because you started getting like this company called CONUS and eventually the CNNs. And so that's when somebody called me and said, there's this little cable company that my friend is at. You should call them. And that was Discovery.
And they were closing because there were independents getting the news and then selling it, or?
The small news bureaus were closing because they were getting sucked up by the CNNs and the bigger.
Oh, right.
So instead of like me with my 6 stations, and if Polly Sue came to do the spelling bee, and I would follow her around, and then I'd do a story saying, and Polly Sue came to Washington to do the spelling bee today. Instead of that, stations were just taking the generic pieces and doing like live shots with their senators to get reaction. So people were finding ways to cut money and not have to support an entire news bureau. So somebody said there's this little cable company, and I was like, cable company, Discovery, what is that?
Right.
And again, it was ABC, CBS, NBC, PBS, and the cable companies were sparse and few. So I went to Discovery in 1993, and it was the Discovery Channel and the Learning Channel.
Tell me what the Discovery Channel is. Is that news or is it?
Discovery Channel is like the Discovery Channel, Spirits of the Rainforest. Back then, it was like Spirits of the Rainforest and, Flying Alaska, and eventually it became Deadliest Catch and Bering Sea Gold,
right.
and
what are you doing there?
Hot Rods. Back then, literally, there were like 200 employees, no international, no home video, no nothing. It was just these little channels that were kind of broadcast locally. And within the 25 years I was there, I helped start 15 networks and grew I can honestly say I helped grow Discovery into one of the biggest media companies in the world.
Really?
And you could go back to any of the presidents, and they will. You can go to David Zaslav, and he knows who I am because I'm a nemesis in there. Because I'm a very vocal.
And what did you? What?
So I was in the production management department.
Okay.
And what Discovery eventually became, because back then we were not public, we were a private company, mom and pop shop. And as we grew, we were like the fastest growing cable company. We started having like the A&Es and, all the other little cable companies. But John Hendricks, who founded Discovery, started buying all the satellite space. And we're like, why does he keep buying all this satellite? And then as we started growing, we realized, oh, this is Animal Planet. Oh, that's, travel. That's history. That's OWN. And he eventually had bought so much of the satellite space, the cable grew so fast that if you wanted to start a network, there was no satellite space, so you had to make a deal. So like OWN,
he owned the.
Yeah, so OWN was a joint venture. It used to be Planet Green, and we turned it into OWN and did a joint venture with her. So like even now, if you want to have a linear TV network, which means you're broadcasting from the satellites, you'd have to go in and buy somebody out to have one. But, now with the internet, you have all these fast channels, you don't need linear TV. You can do everything from your phone, basically. But, so I was there during the startup of Discovery and helped, come up with all of our technical specs, deliverables, and we hired external production companies to produce our shows. And so internally, there would be a business person, an executive producer that handles editorial, and then me, the production manager, that straddles business and editorial and like technical. And so I was the executive producer, and me were like the closest to the project. And because I was very operational, like as we grew and we had, international departments and marketing and home video, everybody needed a piece of something to develop their product. International needed to know when something was going to get delivered because they had to then take it into, 15 different languages and meet this deadline. So my department became we were the cog in the wheel that either kept it going or we could like stop it. And so I was integral in like developing a lot of systems that are now like industry standard. Years later,
best practices.
Yeah, me and one of my friends were at a conference and they were saying something that was best practice, industry standard. And I looked at her and she looked at me and I was like, did we come up with that? So it's kind of funny because, people that started out back then know my name, and I just kind of trip out that somebody knows who I am. But, when you said that I was vocal back then, I think it's just because I would see things that I would say, well, this isn't right, or employees aren't being treated right. So I ended up helping start the employee resource groups, diversity councils. I started the Multicultural Alliance, the Black Cultural Alliance, which of course my brother did all the logos for, and got put on a lot of different boards. So I got to travel a lot. And the thing that I loved about my job is like I would go to Germany to be on set. You know, I reviewed budgets and treatments and just, you know, assessed whether the deal that came to us was feasible from a production, legal, and budget standpoint. And then I'd go on set and I was like, okay, your budget said you had cranes and this and this and this, and I don't see any of that here. So I was also like a gatekeeper. But I started traveling internationally, and everywhere that I went, I would call my grandfather.
Oh, really?
Or I'd send him a postcard, or or we'd be live someplace.
And tell me how old you are then when you were traveling. And
by then I'm in my like late. When did I start Discovery? Like early 30s.
Okay, and
I probably
are you married?
I'm married and I have kids, 2 girls.
Yeah, how do you do that?
You have a very good network of friends, because eventually I became not married.
Yeah.
And very much a single mom. You know, I'll just
I don't
say
know what that means, but
I'll just say Daddy was cray cray. So I raised both of my kids along with my network, put them through school. One was I put through Brown, all by myself, and that's when I say thank you, Discovery. Because as Discovery grew, you know, I started kind of rising up the ranks.
How do you become? How are you an executive and a single mom and 2 daughters and doing all that, and not a lot of family there in DC, and just trying?
I have incredible friends, and my mom. That's when my mom comes to visit. You know, my circle, my inner circle is like we've raised each other's kids. We have helped each other along. When I had to travel, you know, the kids always had somebody to go stay with. It's like, you know, an aunt or an uncle.
Do you sit down and do you write out like, hey, this is what I want to do at Discovery and these are my goals? Or is it just like, I'm just, you know, walking into the lunchroom and they're on the board as a job, and I'll apply and get the job, and everything is just going to go great for me? You know, I mean, is there a method or a design on where you are and how you got here that you can say, you know, this is how I planned certain things, you know?
I didn't plan anything.
Right.
I've always been flying by the seat of my pants, kind of. Sorry, I got like.
You're fine. You're fine. Table's going to be fine.
Well, I mean, when you're at Discovery, every year you do a self-assessment and have a review, and you know, it's like, well, what are your goals? And this, but for me, my goals were always probably like employee and more people-centric, because that's what I feel like I'm a people person. I was always the one that people would come and drop in my office, and somebody said over the years, if you had a Lucy bucket and somebody put a quarter, you'd be a millionaire by now. But so in terms of goals, my goal was always that, you know, my employees and my staff were feeling satisfied, that I was feeling satisfied, and that, you know, we were putting out products that in the early years, it was really educational. And I'll say, you know, near the end, it was Deadliest Catch and American Chopper and that kind of stuff, which is a lot more reality.
People like to watch that.
It is.
It's entertaining.
It's addictive.
It's entertaining, yeah.
Yeah. But I was also doing a lot of ID shows, you know,
Which
investigative, like, you know, the twins murders and the, you know, kind of those Dateline. In fact, I did Dateline. I did Tamron Hall's first series was on Discovery ID before she went onto her talk show and stuff. So, you know, I got to work with, I call them mini celebrities because they're not necessarily A-list, but, you know, we would take people like the American Chopper crew.
Right.
And they were just, you know, we were a fly on the wall filming them. But then they became these celebrities, but they weren't really celebrities because they're just doing their regular job. Right. So before there were talent departments, because I was production management, my department, you know, wrangled and dealt with our on-air talent a lot. So I was also involved a lot in doing their contracts. So, you know, like the Deadliest Catch crew, all those captains became like me and the executive producer's
But
responsibility.
the front of the camera, they're talent, right? So
Right.
they're getting paid for every show.
Yeah, not as much as people thought that they were. But like, have you heard of the Crocodile Hunter?
Yeah, sure.
So Steve Irwin actually was my very, very, very good friend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his daughter Bindi and my youngest Logan grew up together.
Oh, wow.
And so
Was he on your show? I mean, was he on your
he was,
network?
He started out with a special on Discovery, and then eventually he was He was like the face of Animal Planet.
Right.
So I worked with
His son is like a
Baby Bob
movie star, quality. He's a good-looking guy.
So I was having a birthday party for one of my kids, and I was downstairs, and I could hear my cell phone ringing, but I couldn't get up to it fast enough. So I get up there, and I have a message, and he's like, "He's here. He's got a tuft of blonde hair. Oh, crikey. I just wanted to call my family and say Baby Bob is here." So it was Steve left a message because Bob. So we called him Baby Bob. But I worked with him for about 10 years. And during my divorce, he'd be in Australia and he'd call me, or John Staten, who's the producer who actually created Steve, and is like one of the top producers in the world. He's like the Steven Spielberg in Australia. Like everybody knows who John Staten is. Anyway, so me and John and Steve would travel, and Wendy, who was the executive producer, we would travel all over the world, and we were trying to do like a reality series. And John would call me and say, "I've got somebody on the phone that wants to talk to you." And I'd be in my office in DC, and Steve would come on and he's like, "Hey, mate, how you doing, mate? Are you getting some? I was like, "Why are you so concerned about me getting some? I just want to make sure you're happy, mate. I love you." So we would be like in the limo, and once you got invited into the limo, you knew you were part of the family.
Right.
And Steve was just like, and in the limo, there was no more, there was like usually 5 of us. But you just saw this different side of him. And we used to have these crazy conversations. And I say, "Isn't it a trip that you two Australians who are not supposed to like women, and they're not supposed to like black women, and Wendy's black too, and here you are like loving us."
Right.
And so we considered ourselves family. And so when Steve died,
When would that have been? A decade ago, or?
No, it's Labor Day weekend. We're getting near 20 years.
Oh God.
Yeah, I know. But that's like one of those moments I'll remember vividly. I just happened to be awake. It was 1 a.m, and I was on my computer, and Steve was in, I don't remember where he was, but he was shooting a series for Bindi for Discovery Kids. And he was shooting also with Jacques Cousteau's grandson. And so I get this email from Cousteau's agent saying, "I'm so sorry to hear about Steve." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Every year there was like something, Steve Irwin is killed, Steve dies.
Right.
So, you got kind of used to that. But then I started getting emails from like the head of communications, and then Clark Bunting, who was the president of Discovery. And it's like tactical stuff. And I'm thinking, wait, what's happening here? Is this? So I just pick up the phone and call John in Australia. And John picks up and he's like, "Oh, my darling, I'm so sorry. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then he says, "I'm on the boat coming back with Steve's body." And I was like, and by now it's like probably 3 a.m. And so he tells me what's happening. And then he says, "I've been trying to call Wendy. Because Steve and Wendy were very close. Like, you've got to call Wendy. I'm about to go on CNN in 20 minutes. So I get off the phone. I start calling Wendy. It's like 3:30 in the morning. I'm calling. Finally, she picks up. She's like, "What is going on? My phone is ringing off the hook." And then I'm like, I don't even know how I say this. And I said, "Steve is dead." He's like, "What? Huh?" And I said it again. She just starts screaming, throws the phone down. I can hear her screaming, running around. She picks the phone up. I turn on CNN. I said, turn CNN on. And John is on live on CNN. And so we were just on the phone like,
wow.
So eventually I went to lay down watching the news. And then it's like 6 a.m. and my phone rings and it's my father. And he said, I said, I'm awake. I know. He said, okay, I didn't want you to wake up and see it just on the TV. I said, I know. And he said, call me later. So then my phone just starts ringing, and so my kids run upstairs, and I'm like looking for the remote because I don't want them just to see, Steve Irwin, Crocodile Hunter, dead.
Yeah.
I turn off the phone, and they're like, what is going on? I can't remember how old they were. Well, 20 years, so they were like 10, 11. And they'd spent time, like we'd gone to the Macy's Day Parade with Steve. We were in it with him, and, he'd carry them around to press conferences. We went to Conan O'Brien. So they were like, Mama, what's happening? What's happening? And I said, told him to sit down. I told him what happened. And they were just like, oh, Mom, are you okay? Are you okay? And then I turned the TV on, and they saw it. Then my phone just starts ringing. And they said, you need to sleep. You need to lay down. So they turned the TV off. They took the phone. They said, we'll take the phone for a while. Just lay down. So I'm just trying to go to sleep, but I can't. I can hear the phone ringing. So eventually me and Wendy and this woman, Jennifer, who was the business exec, go into the office, and there are lawyers there, and it's Labor Day, and we're just like a basket case. So we go across the street to this bar, and we stay in this bar in this corner table until, I don't know, 9 o'clock at night to get ready to kick us out. It's like crying and drinking, and because everybody, like, it's on all the TVs, and it's just like, and we kept saying to them, you all, like, we're out in the street with him, we get mobbed. And I felt like Discovery didn't really know his celebrity status until he died.
Right.
So I was one of the 4 people that went to Australia to his funeral. My ticket cost $20,000.
Wow.
And my bosses, I kept saying to my boss, are you sure? And they're like, he's like, yes. I went with like the president and the president of Animal Planet and Wendy. So Wendy and I had 2 separate rooms at this hotel in Brisbane. And John was coming to pick us up to take us to dinner. And so Wendy's like, I don't want to stay in a room by myself. I said, I don't want it either. So she said, let's see if we can get a bigger room together. So we're at the front desk talking to the guys saying, is there a room that we can get together? John walks in, and literally the whole lobby of the hotel is like, wow, John Staten. Because Steve just dies. He's about to have this huge memorial for him. So John walks up, and they were like, we'll take care of your room. Don't worry about your room.
Wow.
So when we get back from dinner, Wendy and I have like the penthouse suite that overlooks the water that has like 2 huge rooms. It's humongous. Wow. So at one point, Clark Bunting, the president of Discovery, is in his room, and he calls down. He's like, what are you guys doing? Can I come and practice my speech? So he comes down, and then Marjorie Kaplan, who's the president, another president, she comes down, and they're sitting in our room. They're like, how the hell did you all get this room? And I was like, do you all know who I am? Do you know who I am? But it was, it was really hard.
First time to Australia.
Yeah, and it was hard because there were so many times that I was supposed to go there with Steve. And so walking around, and I understood, like, when he came to the States, a lot of times he would put on a disguise, because, like, if we were in between shoots, we'd have to find something for him to do. So he would, we'd send him, like, to a zoo. And he had this ridiculous disguise that he put on. And when he came back from our zoos, he'd be in tears. He was so sad. It's like, you guys lock your animals up, you cage them. And so when I went to the Australian Zoo, which is like, used to be one of the #1 tourist attractions there, I'm walking around, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, a kangaroo just, whoa. And then I look up, I'm like, it smells really good. Oh, there's a koala bear right over my head. And the elephants, like, every bit of money that we gave Steve, he put back into that zoo. And so the elephants have acres and acres and acres to roam. There are no fences, no nothing.
Wow.
He just, he'll have barriers so they can't, So Wendy and I got to go and, like, walk around with the elephants and feed them and stuff. And it was very surreal, though. And his best friend, Wes, we were walking around, and he said, Steve, you were like his family. I said, he was my family. And he said, there was a picture that I took of him. I always took pictures wherever we went. And I don't know if I can say this here, but they call it that being a star fucker. He's such a star fucker. But after we would travel, I would make like a photo album for them and send it to him. So we were at Best Damn Sports Show, and John Sally was there, Tom Arnold, And then all of a sudden, Serena Williams walks in. This is when she's really young, really tall and thin. And Steve was like, oh my God, it's Serena Williams. Will you take a picture?
Yeah.
I said, do you want the star effort to take a picture of you? So fast forward, we're in Australia, and Wes is like, that was his favorite picture. Like, he blew it up, and it was behind he said, even now, it's behind his desk. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I was in a hotel in Miami, and I walked into the bar. It was on the rooftop, and all of a sudden, this tall, thin woman is standing there, and I felt like she was 6'3", but it was Venus.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was like,
she's really tall.
You just see her and you go, oh, I know who that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Striking. Really.
Yeah, I've gone to the U.S. Open a couple of times, and one of the times was when Venus and Serena played each other.
Oh, in the finals or in just
No,
in the
it
match?
was just in the match. It's the one where Serena had on like the tutus and she was doing all the twirls. It was that one. Yeah, they played each other on a Saturday. So
why do you leave Discovery?
Well, it was 25 years.
Right.
And by then, Discovery had been doing a lot of layoffs. And we had a president, we had gone public, had a new president. And so basically the heart and soul of the company had gone. Like, I was in the Silver Spring office, which was still the headquarters at the time. And every new person that came into LA or New York just didn't understand that Silver Spring was basically Washington, D.C. They thought it was this hick town. And how could you possibly have a major corporation with headquarters in Silver Spring? Because they can't have a creative bone in their body. Right. Meanwhile, we created Mythbusters and literally created this empire that they were now trying to take over. Right. So the layoffs just had become crazy, and we were heading for a sale of Scripps, which owns Food, HGTV. And it was the end of the year. And now I had laid off a lot of people, my friends.
It's no fun.
So I came back from Christmas that January, and one of the heads of the network said, layoffs are coming. And I'm like, oh crap, I don't know about these. That must mean I'm in it. And so...
what year is this?
2018. So I called my big boss out in LA, and he's like, I don't know anything about this either. So I may be in this, because usually he and I are the ones making the decision. So basically, eventually, that couple days go by because we had a snowstorm and they sent everybody home. And so it's a Friday, and I hadn't gone into the office on a Friday since Mackenzie was born. So 20-something years. And so everybody's like, why are you here? Well, if I'm going to get laid off, I need to do it in person.
Right.
And people are like, oh my God, they can't lay you off. You're like the heart and soul and the history of the company. Like, I literally had my computer on permanent legal hold because I had such good records of the company because I kept all my emails in order. So I'm a good deposition person because I sit there. I had one deposition for 8 hours. One of my companies had an FBI raid. And we were like right in the middle of it. And this lawyer was trying to trip me up and said, oh yeah, by the way, blah, blah, blah. And afterwards, my lawyers, they were like, you are like the Perry Mason, perfect witness. But so that Friday, I have all these people in my office. Some have their blue envelopes. Some know that they're safe. And I get the phone call and everybody starts breaking out crying. And I was like, it's okay. So I did that walk that I had so many people do. I was like, wow, this is really kind of calming, and I'm actually okay with this. And it's been 25 years, and I did a lot here. I built this company. So when I sat down, it was my big boss in LA, and he's like this big 300-pound black man, and he looked like he was about to sob. And he had the HR person there, and there was an HR person with me. And they said, there's so many layoffs right now that we had to bring people from other departments in HR. So the woman in my room didn't even do layoffs. But so they said their little spiel, and Jamal said, I need you to know this is not performance based. I said, oh, I know it's not. I said, I just hope that blue envelope represents what I did for this company. So I took the next year and traveled and helped Mackenzie set up an apartment in New York. And Logan by then had started a major at Brown. There were 5 environmental tracks, and Logan started the 5th, which was environmental injustice, and then taught it for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so I went and sat in the class, which blew me away. And then at the end of the year, I was like, oh, I should probably find a job because my severance is going to run out soon, and I want to keep.
So the blue envelope must have been something.
I was there for 25 years. So then at the end of the year, I only applied for one job, and I got it.
And who was that with?
PBS NewsHour. I was their senior production manager, head of production.
And who's the anchor? Who was the anchor?
Judy Woodruff.
Right.
Gwen Eiffel had just died.
She was with CNN, right? Judy was with Bernard Shaw.
Yeah. She's like one of those. She's part of that golden era. So just happened to join there during one of the most traumatic times in the history, which was the first Trump administration and the election.
2018 to 2022, is that what it was?
Yep.
No, 2016 to 2020.
I was there 2018 to 2021.
Okay.
So I had a reporter in the Capitol and a whole crew on the West Lawn on January 6th.
Really?
And we were in COVID, so I was working from my house. So I had all my equipment in my living room, all these monitors where it was my department's job to get all of the field folks, whether it was interviews in somebody's house or, so I could see everybody. And Lisa Desjardins was in the Capitol. And so when stuff first started happening, we were like, Lisa, go get your sat phone. Go get your what is it called? Satellite phone. I can't think of the name of it. But so she ran back to her office and got that. And so we were the only network that went live from the Capitol, like all day.
Really?
So at one point, she's down under a desk. She's got her PBS NewsHour mask on so she can identify herself. And, you can hear people running around her. And at one point, I saw this big machine gun behind her head. And so I'm piping into the news, into the control room. I was like, gun behind Lisa, gun behind Lisa. And everybody's like, Lisa, Lisa. And then this guy comes and grabs her, and it turns out it's a SWAT guy. And so she's running down the hall with all these other people that have these big...
SWAT. Like a police officer.
Police officer, yeah. She's running down the hallway, and you realize that she's running with congressmen and senators.
Wow.
And they all have these plastic balloon bags over their heads. And so she's running, interviewing. What is that? And they're like, these are airbags. And she's running down the steps, and they put them on. And so we follow her all the way until she escapes the building.
Still doing her job the whole time.
Yeah, but the scariest part was when they were breaking in, she was out. There's like a balcony ledge, and then like the front of the Capitol's here, and the doors here, and windows are here, and then the inside there's a ledge. So when you come in, you can look up, and there's like a little balcony. So she was on the balcony.
Really?
So you have Judy Woodruff with a split screen of Judy Woodruff on one side, and then watching people breaking down the door and the windows on the other side, and Lisa on the phone. And you can hear through Lisa's, because we don't have the audio of the video, we have Lisa's audio up. So we can hear them ramming, and you can hear when the glass breaks. And I'm on there like, Lisa, get out of there. Lisa, get out of there. And Lisa's like, then there are insurrectionists running around here, and she's interviewing them live. And we're like, Lisa, take cover. Go take cover. And then I had Anna Navas, who's now the anchor with another guy. And they're in the field, and their field producers are calling. They're like, find some place for us to go because the crowd is turning on us because, reporters are the devil.
And PBS is probably not the most
actually,
favored news organization by that crowd.
Actually, I'll tell you about that in a sec. But so we were calling all around to the buildings near them to find shelter for them. We finally found some place. But it was, so even now when I see that video, I get triggered. I get very triggered. And I didn't realize how much until Trump was in office again. And like last year, the first January 6th when he was in office, I had to like take the day off. I had to go do something because I was just like, what's happening? It's happening again. It's happening again.
Where do you go from PBS then?
So PBS was a great place. And what I was going to say is, during COVID, we had every anchor, we had made their home a studio. So like Judy's home, we called it Judio. That was her studio.
Yeah.
And we had, so there were only probably 3 or 4 people that had to go into the control room during the height of COVID. But it was hard. And then when George Floyd was killed, I was the senior black person on the team. And so constantly having to say, no, you can't put that graphic up. No, we can't do this. No, you can't do that. And people would be looking at me like, why not? Why not? It was one newscast that we were in the control room later that day. I had an outburst in the 2:00 meeting. I was like, you can't put that graphic up. Blah, blah, blah. So we're in the control room, and this woman who sat right next to me, she said, oh my God, I'm just looking at Judy reading that script. And if that graphic had been over her head, that would have been horrible. And I said, yeah, you all don't know what you don't know. And so that's one of the things that my mother always told me. She's like, wherever you are, realize that you're there for a reason and figure out why you're there. So NewsHour, I figured out why I was there during that period, because we're in our morning meeting and there are probably like 80 people on this call. Judy Woodruff, all the heads of all the departments, all the PA, like everybody that works on the NewsHour, because you're deciding what stories you're going to do for the day. So people pitch different stories. So we're on this call, and during COVID, most of the time, most people have their cameras off. It's just probably like 5 people, like the executive producer, Judy, have their cameras on. And I'm sitting there at home with my, just like, this meeting's going on and on. George Floyd had died, and we're talking about the most stupid stories that we're doing. And I'm like, the world is blowing up, and we're doing these dumb stories. And so I turned my camera on, and other people in my department that were at home, they were like, when they saw my picture coming up, they were like, oh, Sydney's camera's on. She's about to do something. And so I said, it became known as my 20-minute Angela Davis rant. Where I said, you guys are some of the most woke white folks I know. But, Amna, have you ever had to sit there and listen to your girlfriends tell their sons why they can't walk down the street with hoodie on and why they can't have this and why? And so I said, you can walk out that door any day and you're Amna Navas, you're Judy Woodruff. I can walk out that door and say her name. I said, I'm just a black woman in this. And said, you all can tell these stories, but you're never going to understand what it's like to be a black person in America. I said, but I have to know everything about your world because I live here. But you don't know anything about my world. I said, and that's what we should be teaching. I said, those insurrectionists, we're probably the only place in the world that half of our audience, watches CNN. Half of our audience were those insurrectionists. We probably have the most Republicans and MAGA people than any newscast. And so we need to be showing things and doing things differently. And I said, we should be finding stories of some young black kid in Omaha, Nebraska that started a community group, and they're doing this and that and the other, because showing that is going to show a signal to some other little black guy in another city that he can do it. And then maybe one of those insurrectionists is watching that story and he sees a young black man in a different view and he has a different view of them. I said, that's what we should be doing. So that led to, but I said it much. I was like, I had my eyes closed. I kind of in my heart had my hand up. So that led to, I opened my eyes and like everybody's crying. I look at my email and I'm like flooded with email. Lisa Desjardins had written me like a thesis of I'm sorry on behalf of white people. And I'm just like, so within an hour, Sarah Just, who was executive producer, and Judy Woodruff had called me and said, can you get all the black people together? So all the black people get on a call with them.
With the PBS.
Yeah, with the 2 head people. And, we just talked. And I said, there are a lot of young ideas from people of color that are too intimidated to even talk in that meeting. And so we ended up having a diversity council. We ended up having a separate meeting just for younger people that didn't have like Judy Woodruff and like these intimidating people on it. And then we started letting a lot of people of color go out in the fields and develop stories. And if we were trying to find an expert on something, we would open it up and ask some of the younger folks, who would you want to hear from? So I'd say for about 6 months, I felt like we were doing really good. The company had started this Friday listening session, and the first one I went to it, and by then we had created a diversity council. So I'm on the listening session, and somebody's moderating, and again it's COVID, so everybody's cameras are off. And they said, you don't have to turn your camera on. You don't have to, don't. This is a safe space. Say whatever you want to say. So finally, this one black guy turns his camera on, and then a white woman turns her camera on, and he's telling a story. He said, I've worked here for 20 years. A lot of you are my best friends, but I'm going to say things that you probably are going to be really shocked to hear. He said, I'm not sugarcoating things anymore. And he started talking, and more people started turning their cameras on. People were crying. One woman's like, I've known you, most of my adult life, and I never knew this, that you had to go through these things. And he's like, I know. We go through things that we don't tell you about. But now that we're telling you, and now that you see what happened, someone got basically killed and lynched on TV, you'll know that, we're not making this stuff up. So after doing that for like 6 months, by the end of the year, I was exhausted. Because I was like, I'm tired of being the black person that has to tell them everything. And so I'd found this other opportunity to start up the primetime original programming for like the cable stations in DC. It's called DC TV. So I jumped ship, as well as about 30 other people of color from PBS, because I think we all, and I love PBS, and I still think they do an incredible job. I visit them. I think they are the source that people should go to if they want to find out the truth. They're the only mainstream place I would recommend. Otherwise, I think everybody needs to go to independent.
Right.
Like the Joy Reids and the Don Lemons, because you're not hearing the things that are really happening on mainstream, because Trump owns them. And Paramount just bought Warner Brothers Discovery, which means they now are going to own CNN. So CNN is about to go by the wayside, the way that 60 Minutes and ABC, George Stephanopoulos, NBC, and NewsHour are the only ones that Trump hasn't gotten a hold of, but he tried to get a hold of PBS by doing all the stuff and making all the cuts. And PBS stations are suffering in more of the rural areas.
Because they're federally funded, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I left and went to DC TV and started a whole original program.
And you did that for how long?
Did that for a couple of years, and then I went to. Have you heard of Accenture?
The company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ran
Formerly Arthur Anderson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I ran their DC studio with Julie Sweet,
Okay. Which was some kind of broadcast of some sort?
So the company has 900,000 employees,
Yeah.
so they have an internal network.
Oh, wow.
And then also they do a lot of stuff like, I didn't realize that Accenture is one of the companies that sets the market price. So like every whenever numbers come in, we were on CNBC at 6 o'clock in the morning. And what I realized is it was I learned AI. I know AI up and down. We had to take classes. You had to have so many hours per quarter that you had to.
On AI.
Yeah. So my mother's like, and that's why you were at Accenture. And you were at PBS for this reason. But it wasn't for me. And I realized I'm a people person. I'm a storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like doing stories for new Gap managers to show you how you could use this technology for your replenishment, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like,
Right.
So luckily, I kind of got trumped beginning of last year. And within like a week, one of my, I'm in this organization called The Links. One of my Link sisters called me and said, can you do a video for me? And then that led to another friend calling me and saying, I have a project that I want you to manage. So I managed this project on the National Mall, the start of Gay Pride Month. I was the project manager. And so when I was doing that project, which they paid me a lot of good money, I said, well, you know what? I'm going to volunteer and do things that I really feel passionate about. So instead of just like sitting at home and screaming at the TV and complaining, I started working with my friend Will, who was running for office. As I started, reading and realizing that local government is going to be the ones that pick up the pieces after all of this mess. And so I thought, well, let me start locally and start with somebody that I know and trust and is going for a job that actually will have an effect on a lot of people. So I started volunteering with Will. And then within like 3 weeks, he said, you're not working full time, right? I said, well, technically no. And so I became his part-time event manager, which really, if you're working a campaign, is more than full-time. I have a newfound respect for politicians because that schedule is cuckoo.
Right.
Cuckoo. So last week, I had my 102nd event election night. Had to, do all of that stuff at 3 a.m. and then turned around and went to Detroit to a conference. And so coming home this week, the election's over. And so I'm kind of like, okay.
You won, right?
We won. And in Maryland, whoever wins the primary wins because there are very few Republicans in Montgomery County.
Right.
So the race is, he's the
slotted to win.
Yeah. Unless, Trump does something crazy and the elections in November which...
You touched on it a little bit, but I'll ask the question and maybe you don't have anything to add, but what do you think of the modern, news organization?
When you say modern, are you talking like mainstream, like CNN,
yes,
CBS?
The ones that get,
I think we have controlled media. I think we're like China now. We're with CNN being owned by Paramount, we're really going to be. And if you look at 60 Minutes, that's an institution. And he broke up that institution. So because I started watching Don Lemon and Joy Reid and all those early on, and I'm a news person, so I was like watching what they're reporting on, then going to CNN, I was like, and I occasionally will watch Fox just because I need to see what people are hearing. And I will say, if you watch Fox long enough, it does get into your brain. And I could see how people that don't have their own opinions could be brainwashed if they're not getting news from anywhere else.
How many people do you think actually watch the news today?
I don't think people are watching news in the conventional way, like sitting down at 5 and 6 o'clock and watching it. I think people are seeing a lot what's on their TikTok feed or what's on their feeds, which is unfortunate because, especially with this being in this campaign, I didn't know people could lie like that. Like, I didn't know you could lie on flyers. And I was appalled. I was like, can I sue them? And there's just a little bit of trickery you do with wording that, you're a lawyer, You do that
I
stuff.
see it more. No, we don't do it. But I see, I see the reels and you can tell often how inaccurate they are. But I can't tell you the last time I sat down and watched the news. I think I stopped watching it.
So how do you know what's going on in the world?
Like, I don't know. I assume I get it from
your feed?
From the feeds, but on the end of the day, I'm not sure that. Okay,
so so because of that, what I'm looking at doing, like I work a lot with just kind of like my cousin who is in the Black breast cancer world. Has an organization that realized that Black women are dying at 42% higher rates because we're taking the drugs of white women because we weren't in clinical trials. So we've signed up 35,000 Black women for clinical trials already. So that's kind of like my side thing that may be turning into something more because, like I said, one of these, it's called a fast network. So because people aren't watching linear TV, like sitting down and looking at their TVs and just going to apps, fast networks are like your, I can't even think of one right this second. They're on Roku and all this. Anyway, that's kind of a side thing that I may be starting up, but I'm also trying to decide if I'm doing this kind of wacky project that, for me, I'm like, we need a reset. The whole world needs a reset because things have just gotten to a point where we're listening to things and just accepting them and not shrugging anymore, when we should be saying that, the president making $1 billion on cryptocurrency shouldn't just be something we hear on the news and the next day we're just like, okay.
Something else.
Yeah. I mean,
something else gets their attention.
Yeah. So I feel like we've lost empathy. I think we've lost connection. I think we need to have more, like, one thing my mom said is, she said, you always force the hard conversations. Because I like to talk, I've always told people, like, if you want to know something about being Black, or there's something that you don't understand, come to me. And my friends are always like, why do you always tell them to come to you? I said, well, where else are they going to go? They can get a book. I said, what book are they going to read? I said, if somebody wants to come to me and ask me a question, then I'm going to answer them, because my roommate in college at Michigan was from, I think, Bloomfield Hills. So within the first couple of days of being in the dorm room, I was putting oil in my hair. So she's like, ew, you're putting oil in your hair. That's nasty. And I said, see, right there. And that's when I said to her, I know everything about living in your world because I have to live in it every day. You know nothing about living in a Black woman's world. But by the end of this semester and this school year, you'll know. And so she was crying. And so I started teaching her. I said, my hair doesn't have oil, so I have to add it. Your hair has a lot of oil, so you have to take it out. So she knew by the end of the year, because all my friends were there, and I hit a lot of people that were pledging, she got to know the Black culture very well. But, those are the conversations I think we need to be having more right now if we're going to break any barriers down and move forward, because, I'm tired of war. I'm tired of all this crap with Israel and Gaza. It's never going to, nothing's going to be resolved by throwing sticks and stones at each other.
Do you think that you've lived in D.C. so long, you're sort of in a bubble that's not part of sort of the, what I'll call the other America? Where you could be in New York or L.A. or maybe Miami. It's just a DC, they're all sort of different Americas, right? Than 90% of everybody else who doesn't live there.
Are you talking in terms of
you have an insight
like
on
political
the news
or
and politics, and
it's local news, yeah.
It consumes you, and whereas if you live in Lansing, Michigan, that's what's happening over there. It's not happening.
And that's the part that I think people need to be shaken up. Because it is happening to you. Because, the people that aren't in Washington are going to lose their health care in a couple months. You need to be aware of that. You need to be aware that you should be looking at what your rules are, and if your precinct is open to where you're going to go vote, you should look at what the new boundaries are in your area, because it's going to affect your daily life and your pocketbook and your health care and everything that isn't in Washington but is in Lansing and is in your daily life. If you don't become aware, then you're going to be screaming.
What do you think? Why do you think Trump got reelected?
Because people are stupid. People are stupid. And I went to Pennsylvania. Like I'm an AKA, and I know a lot of Kamala Harris's line sisters.
Right.
And so we took buses of Howard students to Pennsylvania, like 5 weekends, and did canvassing. And I was not again, I had never done this. I was like, I'm not walking up to people's houses. Mm-hmm. If somebody walks up to my house and rings on my door, I'm going to be like, what the hell? But it was a really good experience, and I had really good conversations with people, but I talked to a lot of Black men that were not going to vote for Kamala. And I just think that people put, and a lot of them also thought that, Trump's going to give me another rebate, tax refund, right, or whatever that was that he gave people. And I just don't think people thought it through, and they're dumb. Have you ever seen the Truman Show, the movie? With Jim Carrey?
I don't think I've ever watched it to the end.
Yeah, that right now we're living the Truman Show. Trump is a producer, and he is producing the hell out of this. He's got his casting with, his head of war and all his little players. They're like the perfect casting, and he's like playing. He even said one of my favorite games is Battleship. Venezuela, they have like little memes and things that the White House is putting on the White House official page. He's playing Battleship. He's sitting here, making money, sitting back and doing all the things that he thinks he needs to do to preserve the power of the folks that he is around. And I just don't think anybody is going to do any better. And in fact, if you are a minority, the thing that he has exposed is we thought we made so many grounds since the civil rights, and what is the hardest to really grasp for me and a lot of, like my mother even, she said, I thought we had made all of this progress, only to realize they just were keeping their mouths shut because they never saw us more than, monkeys.
Who do you think will succeed him?
Trump?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I really have no idea.
Who do you think will be the Democratic nominee? Not on your radar right now.
That's scary. It's scary. I think part of the reason that we are where we are now is, well, one, I think social media, but two, back when I was born in the 60s, we at least had leaders that were stepping up and, putting their lives on the line, and they were leaders that people were following. We don't have, who's our leader right now? We don't have any leader. From either from the Democratic Party to, our civil rights. Our civil rights are getting stripped. If you're not paying attention to that, just go back and look at the rights that I have and my kids have and other people have right now are less than when I was born in 1965. My girls have less rights than they did back when my mother was drinking from a black fountain.
And the Supreme Court is going to be the way it is for a long time, it looks
that to me is, sometimes I just want to cry, because I never thought in my lifetime I could see something that was supposed to be so pristine and not touched just totally corrupted. Some of the fact that their birthright citizen was a 5-4 ruling and almost got overturned, that's the kind of stuff people should pay attention to, because that is scary. We're that close to we already, I just don't think people understand the state that we're in and the things that are going to happen this fall.
Well, we'll see. What it says at the bottom of your resume, the thing you sent me.
What did I send?
It was like the motto, your motto.
Oh, my memo, bio. I sent you my long bio.
Yeah, but at the bottom it said something like getting to know somebody. That's always something about getting to know somebody. Do you remember exactly what it says?
No. Was it something like...
it's always a worthy...
people have a story to tell?
Yes.
Yeah. And I do. I feel like everybody has a story. What I've said to people is, even Trump, if you go back and think of why is Trump the way that he is, his father didn't love him. His father was part of the KKK. There are all these things that he is the way that he is. And I feel like if we knew people's stories more, we could maybe understand where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say that you will agree, but at least you may have a teeny bit of empathy. And I think that's what we're missing right now in this world is empathy. Because if I at least understand you, or if I listen to you and I can see from your side where you got to where you are, still doesn't mean I will feel any different. Like with Trump, I think he's a racist, whatever. But at least I understand why he is where he is based on his background.
Right. You may not like to hear this, but I'll say it. What he's done is...
I'm about to throw something at you now.
But like him or hate him, what he's done is incredible. And I don't mean incredible like great, but a lot of people couldn't function being indicted. And a lot of people, some of the things he said, and he still becomes president, and then he gets indicted 100 times. Most normal people, and I give credit to Hillary, when you have your political opponent yelling, lock her up, and he could be president, and in fact did. The fact that she could still wake up thinking, I don't know, am I going to go to prison? Am I going to get indicted? And he's able to do it. It's and you think about what Gary Hart did when he was on a boat.
There's nothing that you can tell me that's any worse than what Trump has done. And again, this is when I'm okay, people need to know really what is happening, and you need to pay attention, because I don't think you would say what you just said if you knew some of the things, the mafia like things that he has done.
Well, when I say incredible, I don't mean
and
it
the fact, I just need to say this too. All of this like Christian family values BS when you are a known pedophile, because tell me, why aren't we seeing the Epstein files and all the other stuff that I know is done? And we're all saying that some of these other people need to be indicted on stuff, and the man who's at the top of it has more criminal things that he has done since he has been president. So to me, if you're going to start talking about things that people have done, I will to give you 5 million things more than people that have been hurt.
Yeah, no, I just think that, it's a completely different environment that we're in. And for somebody to get elected twice, given, it's something that I can't comprehend.
But if you look at a lot of the people that voted for him, they're all having remorse now.
I don't know.
Because you're not watching the news, dude.
Well, I don't know.
Well, not CNN news, but I'm just saying.
That may be true, but
if you're listening, if you're looking at your feed, because your feed, based on what you're saying, is replicating your views. So you're only in your feed seeing the stuff that people agree with.
Some maybe, but not necessarily. The assumption is that I would see only Trump stuff, which I don't really watch. I'm just saying, from an objective standpoint, it's a bizarre time that you could get just what he said on that bus, and to still get elected. It's like, and those people are still alive and they're still voting. So how we deal with it, and whoever gets elected has to figure all that out, whether it's a Democrat or Republican. But what I wanted to get to was, I agree with you. Everybody does have a story. Mm-hmm. And it was great for you to share yours. It's amazing, and you're still young and you're still healthy and you still have a lot to offer. And, this is a new phase in your life far as being self-employed. It doesn't sound like you've done that, but, some of our great success stories in America don't start until people hit their 60s. So
maybe you and I should do like a tit for tat kind of podcast or something.
Yeah, I would love it. I would love it.
Because I need to shake your world up and bring you all into.
My record is pretty clear, and it's not that I'm not 100% on the Democrat side, and I'm not 100% on the Republican side. I support different people, and I kind of look, like I'll say, I look down on people who say I'm a Democrat, or I'm a Republican. It's like, you're what? I had this argument with my mother yesterday. Just tell me what you believe. Tell me the issue and tell me where you fall. A lot of them are very complicated, are very complex. And if you can articulate your position in a, well thought out, meaningful, I respect that.
Right. I think, like my mother said, every place that I've been there for a reason. And so I think I've kind of realized, like, right now why I'm, not at a corporation and I am freelance, because I do feel like my space is, I've looked back over the last couple of years and thought, I've been in a lot of spaces and I know a lot of people. And I'm ready to kind of mix things up more on a national level to, like I said, we need a reset.
It's a great mantra for life. No matter where you are, you're there for a reason.
Yeah, and, just figure it out.
Yeah.
And then do something about it.
Exactly. This has been great.
Thank you.
How long was this?
What? Are you serious?
Well, I thought we were getting close.
I'm going to hit you with this.
What time is it? 10 o'clock?